Imagine, if you will, a large island nation in the middle of nowhere. Their isolated culture has many good engineers and scientists, but for some inexplicable reason, they have no automobiles. The wise and benevolent ruler of this island nation wanted to remedy the situation, so she put together two teams of her best engineers and asked each team to independently create the best possible automobile design they could. The two teams were sent off to work and were given several months to come back and present a detailed explanation of their proposed designs. Upon their return, the residents of the island nation gathered in the town hall to hear about what the engineers had come up with. The leader gave each team 2 minutes to explain their designs. The first team's presentation was entitled "The Combustion Engine Automobile," and it went like this.
Dear citizens, I'm going to have to speak quickly because we have a lot to cover. We believe we have come up with a very workable design. We start with a substantial block of metal that is hollowed out to create several cylinders, each of which houses a movable piston. The idea is for the pistons to move up and down, and in turn that motion is transmitted to the wheels of the vehicle to make them turn. We get the pistons to move by creating a small explosion in each of the cylinders, which then forces the piston downwards. The explosion is caused by igniting a small amount of combustible fuel mixed with air, using an electrical device called a spark plug. By sequencing a number of pistons and connecting them to something called a crankshaft, we can have some of the pistons moving downwards, while others simultaneously are moving upwards. The crankshaft also translates the vertical motion of the pistons into the rotational motion needed to turn the wheels of the vehicle. We need a way to store and deliver the fuel to the cylinders, so we have a tank that holds liquid fuel and a mechanical pump that pumps the fuel into the engine as needed. Oh, and by the way, we need electricity to power the spark plugs, so for this we use a rechargeable battery, charged by an alternator that is driven by a belt attached to the engine. We use the same battery and alternator combination to crank the starter, which is a small motor that's needed to get the whole assembly turning and actually start the combustion engine process. The constant explosions generate a lot of heat, so we use a water cooling system that has a pump that moves the water through the engine block and a radiator with a fan that removes heat from the circulating water. The fan is driven by a belt system that is part of the engine assembly. The explosions also create some gaseous residues called exhaust, which needs to be vented out of the engine compartment by a system of pipes called the exhaust manifold. These gases contain materials that are harmful to the environment, so we need to add filtering to the exhaust system in the form of catalytic converters and other filters, although a good amount of the exhaust gases are still released into the air at the exhaust end. These explosions are rather loud, so we attach a device called a muffler at the exhaust pipe, and this cuts down on some of the noise. We regulate the fuel and air mixture ratio going into the cylinders through an elaborate fuel injection system attached to each of the cylinders. The injected fuel or the ejected exhaust is let in and out of the cylinders through a complex series of up and down valve movements that are sequenced by a rotating mechanical rod called a camshaft. The camshaft is driven by a separate belt system that is part of the motor assembly. Of course, all of these moving parts and heat-inducing activities create a lot of friction on the various metal pieces, so we have to bathe the entire interior of the engine block with a lubricant. That lubricant is stored in a pan underneath the engine and pumped through the engine block with another pump called the oil pump. And finally, since the combustion engine can't generate enough torque to easily accelerate and reach driving speeds, we've designed a complex system of different size gears that shift in and out as needed, and we call this the transmission. Given all the movement inside the transmission, we need to also bathe that subassembly in a different type of lubricant called transmission fluid. Deep breath. We are very proud of our invention, and we hope you will agree that it will be the perfect solution for our country's first automobiles.
Very exciting, Team 1. Team 2, you're up. You have 2 minutes to share your design.
Thank you. Our design is called the electric vehicle. I don't think I'll need the full 2 minutes to explain it, as the concept is relatively simple. We use an electric AC induction motor to drive the wheels. The electric motor gets its power from a rechargeable battery bank located in the center of the vehicle under the seats. The electric motor has only one moving part, the rotor. The rotor is housed within a stator and rotates when electricity from the batteries is applied to the stator windings. The motor is powerful but quiet, so we don't need to muffle its sound, and it emits no exhaust, so we don't need to filter it. The amount of heat generated is low, so we don't have to circulate a lot of water to keep it cool. The magnetic resistance of the motor can be used to help slow the vehicle down when braking, and that sets up a reverse electric current in the stator that can be fed back to the batteries, creating longer range and efficiency. We do use a transmission, but because the electric motor generates maximum torque at almost all speeds, we only need a single gear. The batteries are DC, and we use an inverter to convert them to the AC electricity needed to drive the motor. Finally, we use a small, rechargeable 12-volt DC battery to power the various electronic systems in the car, such as the running lights, windshield wipers, and onboard displays. And that's it. We hope you like our design.
Well, thank you to both teams for your marvelous designs. It's exciting to know that we will soon have the ability to drive self-propelled vehicles through our island nation. But which design should we choose?